if your neurodivergent child hits, kicks, bites, or explodes you in the right place. And I want to start by saying something that most parents desperately need to hear, but rarely do. You are not failing, and your child is not broken. Most parents who come to me carry so much shame about this. They lower their voice when they say it. My child hits, or my child gets aggressive. And behind that sentence is fear. Fear of judgment, fear of labels, fear of what this behavior means for their child's future. So today I want to slow right down, because if you keep trying to control behavior when you should be decoding it, things don't just stay the same. They usually get worse. Hi, I'm Isabella Doyle, a neurodivergent family coach specializing in explosive behaviors. Let me start by telling you a story about 3 children in the same classroom with the same maths worksheet to complete. Child number 1 looks at the page. They don't understand what they meant to do, so they put their hand up. The teacher comes over, explains the question, offers support. That child relaxes, they complete the worksheet, they learn. And here is the important part. Next time, they might not even need the help. Now, child number 2 looks at the same worksheet, same confusion, same lack of understanding. But instead of raising their hand, they cry. The teacher notices, gets down to their level, asking, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" The child explains they don't understand the maths, and they get help too. They are comforted, supported, reassured, they are ready to learn. Then child number 3, the same worksheet, the same confusion, but this time they explode. A chair is pushed back, the paper is ripped. "Maths, it's stupid, you are stupid," they shout, and they are sent out of the classroom to cool down. And here's the part that matters the most. They never get help with the maths. And the next day, the same worksheet, the same confusion, and the same explosion. And now there is a label. Explosive, defiant, with behavioral problems. But here is what all 3 children had in common. They were all struggling with the maths. The difference wasn't ability, it wasn't intelligence, it wasn't effort, it was communication skills. Child 1 could ask for help, child 2 could cry for help, and child 3 couldn't do either. And while tears triggered empathy, anger triggered punishment. So one child learned, one child was comforted, and one child was left even further behind. This story matters because it's exactly what happens with hitting. And Dr. Rose Green puts hitting in the category of unlucky behaviors together with pushing, throwing, swearing. And children who use those behaviors when met with problems and frustrations never are met with empathy but punishment. And actually, hitting is not the problem, it's the signal. But when we respond only to that signal and not to the struggle underneath, we create a cycle where the child never gets help they actually need. And then we wonder why nothing changes. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about hitting in neurodivergent children. Hitting is not a conscious decision in a moment. It's not a choice, and it's not a moral failure. It's not a character flaw. When a neurodivergent child hits, their thinking brain is already offline. The part of the brain responsible for reasoning, impulse control, perspective taking and language is not longer available to them. What's in charge is their nervous system, fight, flight, or freeze. Hitting lives firmly in fight. So when we respond with punishments, consequences, lectures, or labels, we are responding as if the child had access to skills they simply didn't have. Punishment assumes control. Dysregulation, on the other hand, is about capacity. And this is where things often spiral, because hitting is also a deeply unlucky form of communication. It's unlucky because it almost always gets met with punishment instead of help. If a child cries, we soothe them, we comfort them. If a child shuts down, we worry about them. But if a child hits, we correct. And I understand why. It can hurt, it can feel scary, it can feel unacceptable and unpredictable. But the message underneath the hitting is often the same message as the tears or the raised hand. This is too hard. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the skills for what's being asked of me. When we treat hitting like behavior to stamp out, we miss the message, just like the teacher missed the maths difficulty with the third child. And then we accidentally make it worse, because now the child has two problems. Their original unsolved problem, in our story the maths worksheets, and then the belief that they are the bad one. So now let's talk about what actually drives this behavior. Hitting doesn't come out of nowhere. There are patterns, there are triggers. One of the most common is difficulty with flexible thinking and adaptability. Many neurodivergent children hold a very clear picture in their mind of how something is going to go. When that picture changes, a plan shifts, an activity ends, expectations change, their nervous system reacts as if something is wrong. If they are pushed to adapt before they are ready, hitting can happen as a way of saying, "This is too hard, I cannot do this." This isn't defiance, it is not manipulation, it's a difficulty with skills. What helps is reducing unpredictability wherever possible, giving warnings, explaining changes. And if adaptation is still too hard, dropping the expectation. Whatever it is, it can wait. Regulation always comes first. Another common driver is differences in theory of mind. In moments of stress, some neurodivergent children struggle to understand that other people have different thoughts, different feelings, different intentions. So request can feel like an attack. A boundary can feel unfair. Even offer of support can feel intrusive. So use clear, literal language. Explain intentions out loud, assuming less and clarifying more. Then there are expectations that exceed the executive function skills of our neurodivergent children. We often expect children to do things because they should be able to, based on their age or their perceived intelligence. But skills are not consistent under stress. Transitions, homework, stopping a preferred activity. These rely on executive function skills that are often lagging by 30%, if not more. When demand stays high and skills drop, the nervous system overloads, and hitting is not the goal, is the outcome. Then we have sensory overload, which plays a huge role too. Noise, lights, touch, clothes, crowds, sensory input stacks up until the body hits its limit. At that point, reasoning is gone, language is gone, the body is just surviving. And finally, frustration tolerance linked to interoception. Many neurodivergent children don't notice early signs of hunger, fatigue, or raising emotions. So frustration builds up fast and explodes suddenly. Now, here is another common mistake I see loving, exhausted parents make. Trying to fix everything at once. When hitting shows up, parents go into emergency mode. More rules, more structure, more consequences. But overwhelm on top of overwhelm doesn't create safety. Change happens when we slow down, when we identify the triggers. And those triggers are usually tasks, activities, transitions, sensory load, and those executive function skills. Then we can choose one and only one difficulty our child have. Not the behavior, but the trigger. And this is where collaboration matters. That's your secret sauce. Instead of saying, why did you do that? What do I need to do to make you stop? We ask, I've noticed that stopping the game is really hard for you. What part of that is tricky right now? Just like the maths worksheet. The problem was an explosion. The problem was the maths. And unless we solve the maths, the explosions will come back. Then, when we actually listen to our child with concern, with empathy, with understanding, we can share our concerns with the child. Why does this matter? How does this affect them in relation to health, safety, learning, friendships? And then we invite them to solve those problems together. When children help build solutions, the nervous system stays safer. This is also why labels like violent, aggressive are so damaging. That word describes an outcome, not a cause. It shuts down curiosity. It replaces understanding with fear. And children internalize it. If you've tried consequences, rewards, being stricter, being softer, or walking on eggshells, the reason it hasn't worked isn't because you didn't try hard enough. It's because behavior doesn't change through control. It changes through understanding. When we decode behavior, instead of trying to dominate it, we create safety. And safety is what allows skills to grow. Hitting is not something to excuse, but it's something to understand. And when we get that right, we don't just reduce meltdowns, we don't just reduce hitting. We protect children from becoming the problem child. We keep the focus on learning, on growth, on support, on enhancing their skills, just like every child in that classroom deserved. If this helped you see your child in a little different, more compassionate light today, please subscribe so you don't have to figure this out alone. New video comes every week to help you understand behavior, reduce meltdowns, and bring more calm back into your family. Bye for now.